Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of UPressPlay Sports. I'm your host and news editor, Richard Pereira, and joining me today is sports editor Cameron Priester and staff writer Zachary Watts. Hey guys, how's it been going since we last talked?
Going pretty well. A lot of things happening. We're starting to get into our winter sports. We have basketball coming up for FAU, so that's always exciting. And unfortunately, the end of some of our other sports. But altogether, looking forward to talking about them. There's a lot of good to talk about and a lot of things that we can build on heading into next year.
Yep, I'm doing good. Got the Shula Bowl to talk about this week.
Yep.
Start of FAU basketball. A lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to start off with FAU football. This Saturday on November 12th at 7 p.m., they'll be heading down to Miami to take on their in-state rivals, Florida International University, also known as FIU, for their annual Shula Bowl. Last year, FAU took the Shula Bowl at home in very convincing fashion, scoring over 50 points in what was basically a blowout. But this time, FIU has made things very interesting. They have a 4-5 record, which is the same record as FAU's. While they do have a 2-3 record in conference play, they have shown that they have made a lot of improvements from last year and might make this game a lot more interesting than we might expect. So, what are your guys' expectations heading into this matchup?
Well, I'd say FIU didn't get off to one of the best start this seasons. They had a struggle against, I believe, Bryant, an FCS opponent. They had struggled against some opponents that I would have considered below them heading into the season. But obviously, as the season goes on, you tend to find your identity, you improve in a lot of facets of the game. So they've definitely made their improvements. And it's definitely not an opponent you should overlook, especially a rivalry opponent. In any rivalry game, you never know what could happen. It's obviously the last game of the year, so you tend to look at it. You mark it off on your calendar. You think about it for a very long time. There's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of emotion and energy that go into that game. So we could definitely be seeing their best football, but on our side of things, we want to see our best football. I feel like we really kind of hit our stride with a lot of things. With this bye week, we really had time to rest, prepare accordingly. Perry's done extremely well as of late with handling the football. Our running game has done exceptionally well. Dating back to before the bye week, how well we ran the ball there. We're limiting the penalties. We're sharing the ball adequately. I just think everything's kind of hitting on all cylinders at the perfect time. Obviously, you just have to show some consistency. That's all we really want to see out of this Shula Bowl. I definitely think we should win. But like I said, thinking you can and executing is completely different. So we'll have to see how we perform.
Yeah, FAU seemed to, like you said, starting to put it all together a little bit more. Perry's playing well, a little more mistake free. All the running backs seem to be being able to do their own thing whenever they get the ball. Defense isn't playing. Actually, they're playing well. Actually, they've been able to hold opponents some low scoring games as of recently. But I think you're exactly right that this is should be one of the more interesting Shula Bowls in recent memory. They do look really improved. Their defense isn't terrible. Coach Dearman talked about it at practice today. They like to show like a lot of different fronts and like, move around before the snap. So yeah, they definitely shouldn't be overlooked. I think it will be interesting, but if they can kind of continue in what they've been doing in weeks prior and build off this kind of extra bye week they have, um, they should be able to get it done. But it should be interesting.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. When you look at FIU last year, where they finished 1-11, at this point in the season they were 1-8. So the fact that they were able to improve their record to 4-5 within the span of a year, it's impressive, and it's definitely a good step forward for their football program. For FAU though, I see this as their best chance to finally get a win on the road. And it's not like they can't do it. It's they have done before, especially with their first road win under Willie Taggart coming against FIU back in the shortened 2020 season. So as long as FAU makes the right plays and executes the plays that they need to get their touchdowns and get their best plays on, they should be able to win another Shula Bowl for the program to continue their bragging rights over FIU. But yeah, when it comes to the road record for FAU, 0-4, this is their best chance to finally get a road win. Moving on from FAU football, we head on to FAU soccer. Both men's and women's concluded their seasons last week. We'll start off with the men's. Despite a hard-fought effort for the entire game, especially on the defensive end on the pitch, they were a goal in the final minutes of the game ended FAU's season as they lost 1-0 to also FIU, who were ranked number 22nd in the country, at the time. With this loss, they finished their season with a record of 4 wins, 9 losses, and 3 draws, albeit with a respectable conference record, 3 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. So how are you guys reflecting on how men's soccer performed this season?
Well, with our first season in the American Athletic Conference, you tend to not put too much expectations on yourself. Obviously, you have your goals, some milestones that you want to hit, but for our first season overall, I think we were able to identify our weaknesses as well as some of our strengths. We played a lot of games close this year. Some of the issues, we ended up dropping a lot of games late in matches, just mental errors, small things like that. What I was kind of upset with just in our last game is we kind of played a little too defensively. You tend to hear the saying, like, when you're not playing to win, you're trying not to lose. But the problem with that is I feel like you're not giving yourself a chance to win. We outshot, we outshot FIU in the first half, 3 shots to 2, and then in the second half we just played defense, which I understand. Just from a qualifying perspective, like, you only need to get 1 point out of the matchup. A draw gets you into the tournament, and then you can move on from there. But I thought we could have just as easily have won the game if we would have been the aggressors. Obviously, didn't go our way, and it's easier said than done, especially in hindsight. Looking back on the game, you want to make improvements, but I don't think that's anything to hang your head on. Your first year in the program, or in the American Athletic Conference, excuse me. But we played a ton of quality opponents. We played ranked opponents included, pulled some wins out there, draws, especially. And just didn't go our way this season, but I feel like it sets us up even better for next year. I'm not too well renowned with the seniors that are graduating or the players that are returning or even the ones that we have signed, but I'm confident in what we've done in the past that we can continue to build, especially for the future.
Yeah, it's you can't be really satisfied with the record, but like you said, it's first year in the American Conference, and there are plenty things to build off going into the next season. So you don't really kind of like hang your hat on the kind of like the disappointing aspects, and like it's never great to like end your season the loss to your rival, but you don't harp on those. You build off kind of the positives of the season and you move forward. So and there's plenty of that to be confident about. So we just move on. It's a building block, and like you said, let's look on to next season.
Yeah, and I would agree with you guys for the most part. But there were opportunities for FU to have gotten a few games that should have went their way. Like, for example, their losses against North Florida and especially against Temple, who were did not have very good records at the time, especially being at the bottom at that moment when we played them. So there were definitely a few missed opportunities for FU to get more points than they actually got. And even in this game against FIU, they really still had a chance to qualify for the postseason. All they needed was really a draw. So to what you said, Zach, that you were right. They weren't really playing to win. They were just trying not to lose. They were looking for that draw, and they were very close to doing it too before FIU scored that goal in the final minutes to ultimately win another conference. They become because of that goal, they won and became regular season champions. So credit to FIU on actually pulling out against a respectable defensive performance from FIU. But at the end of the day, this is their first season in the American, and we know that they will make adjustments heading into next season. They will have more players coming into the program. At the end of the day, this is a first step, and we'll see what happens with their next step next year. Moving on from men's soccer, we head on to women's soccer, and for the most part, they had a great tournament. They took down Louisiana Tech 4-1 in the quarterfinals, beat the hosts Charlotte 2-1, and were very close to qualifying for the NCAA tournament before suffering a heartbreaking defeat in double overtime, 3-2 to UTSA. So it's definitely a hard pill to swallow for the Lady Owls. They were just minutes away from qualifying for the NCAA tournament and clinching the Conference USA tournament before they head to the American next year. What do you guys have to say on how the women's played for this season?
Well, to open up the tournament, to get that revenge game against Louisiana Tech, I thought that was huge. We dropped out 1-2-1 turnaround, ended up beating them 4-1, which is a very impressive win in its own regard. And then, you're playing at Charlotte, end up pulling that one out 2-1. You had beaten them earlier in the year as well, but just, maintaining, knowing that you can beat them and then beating them again, that's just as impressive. And then against UTSA, it is a hard pill to swallow, especially considering like how it went down. We had that one shot by Bree Austin, I believe, that ended up hitting the goalpost really late into the game. That if it's a little more this way, a little more that way, like you end up tying it up, or even taking the lead in that regard. Just doesn't roll your way sometimes. But there's so much to be proud about for the season. I mean, our women's team played exceptionally well. I think we had 3 players named to the all-tournament team. We were leading in shots as well as corners. We definitely, in my eyes, we were outplaying them for the most part. Just it's kind of how soccer works. Like, just not everything goes your way. It kind of hurts. I think we had 2 players close out their 5-year careers. So shout out to those girls for their long, illustrious careers. And then we also broke a record. Landris finishes the all-time leader in minutes played with 7,415 minutes tallied on the pitch. That is more than impressive. Bree Austin finished her final season leading FAU in goals with 9 and points 25. So just a lot of players with great careers that unfortunately had to come to an end. But like I said, I've repeated, nothing to hang your head on. So much to be proud of. And, we just look forward to better results next year. That's all you can really do.
Yeah. It was a heartbreaking way to finish the season, to be minutes away from the tournament, like Richard said. And like I do agree that we kind of outplayed UTSA a little bit. 7 more shots, 2 more shots on goal. But I have nothing but great things to say about this season. From like you said, revenge win against Louisiana Tech in the first round. Making it all the way to the championship, and finishing 11-8-3, that's and 5-4 and 1 in the conference. That's a really great record and great way to finish their time in the CUSA. So nothing but great things. Like you said, shout out to all those girls that made the all conference team. That's 3 on the team. That's amazing. So nothing but great things to say about it. And it's really something to build off moving forward next year.
Yeah, exactly. And it at the end of the day, this was a great season for them. They finished with an overall record of 11 wins, 8 losses, and 3 draws, with a conference record of 5 wins, 4 losses, and a draw. But yeah, it's still going to hurt that they couldn't get to the NCAA tournament, especially with the mistakes that happened to them in that match against UTSA. The first goal being a goalkeeping error, the second being a goal on the transition, then the last goal being from a set piece, from a corner kick. It pretty much shows you the importance of never letting your guard down against your opponents. And this game pretty much showed that. Despite the Owls' efforts to come back down 2-0 to tie it up at 2-2 to force overtime. But yeah, it was just not FU's day. But again, credit to them, especially the players who made the all-tournament team and all the players who played their hearts out, especially Brie Austin, G. Christic, and Haley Landrews, and all the others who played great for the team. Just keep building on what you got from this season and carry it over to next year, especially as you play your first season in the American. And moving on from FU soccer, we finally have FU basketball to talk about, and we'll talk about the men's first. They began their season last night against Lynn University Monday night and blew them out the gates 81-46, and they did it without their star player Michael Forrest. Cameron, I know you were at the game. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed FU beating the lights out of Lynn. What are your thoughts on how they played?
Yeah, a very lopsided final score, but we played a little bit sloppy in the first half. Which like a bunch of them said post game, it's just first game jitters. Not having Mike for reasons they refused to disclose was big. He's easily the best shooter on the team, and a veteran presence like that is big on opening night. But that improved as the game went on. They started to shoot the ball better. Um, having Isaiah Gaines transfer forward is huge. Another big body in addition to Vlad and Giancarlo is huge because the backcourt is already deep. So having like a second or third big body on the team, sometimes having two on the floor is gonna be huge. Nothing but excitement about the entire season. Elijah Mitchell, he was kind of quiet last night, only had 9 points, but he's, like Coach said after the game, is kind of adjusting to a new role. Whenever teams are preparing, watching tape of FAU, getting ready to play them, he's going to be the first name mentioned every time. So he's going to be drawing a lot more attention from defenders and a lot of double teams. So it's going to take, I think, a couple of games for him to get accustomed to that role. But there's so much experience between like him, Mike, Vlad, bunch of other guys. There's nothing but stuff to be excited about with the men's.
Yeah, like Cameron said, having big bodies always helps, and I think that's kind of the identity that FAU has built up over the years, especially under head coach May. I mean, last year, yeah, Dusty May. Last year, we were able to clinch our fourth consecutive winning season. So right now, we're trying to make that five, which is the first time in program history. But yeah, I mean, point of emphasis is really just making our name known on the glass. Continuing to win the rebound battle, and I think that's a huge proponent of why we win so many games. Obviously, we had a lot of players return this season, which is great for us. You're able to continue to build with the guys you already have. I mean, just going through the roster before the Lynn game, I was kind of looking at some of the additions as well. You brought up Vlad, who's a massive body in the paint, who's able to consistently put up not only good shots, but just makeable shots. I think that's huge for him to adjust into this lineup. Elijah Martin, Michael Forrester, and even Giancarlo Rosado off the bench. Like, these are all guys that are going to be huge for us this season if we want to make a deep run. Because I feel like we're starting to trend towards, we've consistently been able to win and put up winning seasons, but now we have to start to set the expectation of making deeper tournament runs. We have to kind of put ourselves in positions to, consistently win against higher quality opponents. I think last year we had 8 wins over a 20-point margin. Now it's time to make those wins count against teams that like were better than us in years past, if that makes sense. But starting off against Lynn did exactly what we needed to do. Nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. It's kind of just one of those where you already marked it off on your calendar just as like a win, just because how good we are. And when you're able to do that, you get very comfortable, and that it's a very good sign. But we're never going to overlook anyone moving forward, and we weren't overlooking Lynn. But like I said, some high expectations heading into the season.
Yeah, and my expectation for them heading into the season is to get wins against big teams, or at the very least one of them. And we will have that after this win against Lynn, as we will head out on a 2-game road trip. First, heading out to Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi, on Friday, November 11 at 7 p.m. It will be broadcast on either SEC Network or ESPN Plus. So if you have that subscription, definitely check it out. And after that, they head out to Gainesville to take on the Florida Gators. So yeah, 2 big road matchups for these Owls, and we'll wish them the best of luck with those two big names. And moving on from from men's basketball, we have women's basketball. They haven't started their season yet. That will be on November 10 on a Thursday against Bethune-Cookman. It will be broadcast on YouTube, and they will look to improve from what was a very bad season for them. They finished with a record of 5-25. They suffered a first-round exit to FIU in the Conference USA tournament. They had a conference record of 1-17, including losing streak of 12 straight games. It's definitely going to be a season that they're going to have to redeem themselves from what happened last year. So what are you guys' expectations for the Lady Owls heading into the season?
Well, I mean, despite not having a game count on our record, I believe we did have that little exhibition against St. Thomas, which I thought was extremely helpful for us, not only just to see where we are coming into the season, but really to just get everyone a chance on the floor and play together and kind of see how things look when things are actually in motion against a real opponent. At no point throughout the game do we shoot less than 40% from the field, whether that be the 3-point line or free throws in any quarter, which is huge, shows that you're consistently hitting shots. Points off of turnovers, I think it's a huge emphasis, especially in women's basketball. Not a lot of times you're going to be able to put together consistent possessions, especially after how we were last year. It's building on the small things, and if we're able to get points off turnovers and win the turnover margin, that's always huge. That tends to set you in a good position to win games. And I think we had 10 Owls see playing time in that exhibition. So to kind of build trust with not only your starters but your bench players as well. Work in your rotations, try to get everyone on the court at some point, see who meshes well together. I think that's really the importance of that. Bethune-Cookman will be a good matchup to open up the year. They're a quality opponent, and it'll be interesting to see what they have for us. But when you think about last year and how that ended, you can only look to build from there. Like they say, if you're at the bottom, the only way is to the top. So we got to start somewhere, and I'm not too upset with that. It's never a bad thing. I never want to have a negative outlook for any of our sports teams, and especially not for our women's basketball team. It's always going to be fun to check them out as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. That the only way is up for the women's basketball team. Last year was tough, going 5-25, but I think last year was kind of tough for them off the court. They kind of had to deal with the departure of multiple players in the middle of the season. They also had Amber Gasson, one of the better players on the team, deal with a head injury. So there was just kind of a lot going on for them. But I think they have just room to improve, and I think we kind of saw that in the exhibition match. They shot the ball well, 54.5 from the field, 47.6 from 3-point. That's it's not bad. It is an exhibition match, and it is against like a smaller opponent like that. But these are signs of life and the improvements that like you kind of want to see. So, like you said, Bethune-Cookman's kind of a good opponent to start the season off. So I think once we finally see them in action, I think we'll have like a better gauge. But they definitely did in the exhibition match show the kind of improvements that you want to see. So excited to watch them play this week.
Yeah, definitely. And once again, they will start the season at Daytona Beach against Bethune-Cookman on Thursday, November 10th at 11 a.m. And the broadcast will be on YouTube. So best of luck to the Lady Owls, and hopes for a much better season than last year. And that will conclude our section with FAU sports. Now we head on to national sports, and we start off with the NFL. It's definitely been an entertaining week, week 9 for the NFL. Philadelphia still remains undefeated in the league after beating Houston on last Thursday against Houston. The Dolphins survived the shootout, survived against Chicago, 35-32. Sorry, Cameron. I know Justin Fields definitely made an effort to test Miami's defense, and
the Bears got hosed. That was the worst no call I have ever seen in my life. He got mauled. By both of them, and the dude right in front of the referee, and he did nothing. That guy does not deserve to be an NFL referee, and that's the only thing I'm going to say about that game, other than Justin Fields is him. That'll save you.
Yeah. I guess I'll start off with that game. Justin Fields running all over the place. We're kind of seeing the takeover with mobile QBs nowadays. And I feel like this was the first week where I felt my childhood ending. Matt Ryan is pretty much done. Stafford just has no signs of life. I mean, Aaron Rodgers throwing 3 interceptions against the Lions. Like, what is happening? Like it feels like football isn't football anymore. I gotta admit, but the future holds some exciting things. We have young talent like Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields. A lot of people doing a lot of great things. Another game I kind of wanted to bring up is the Jets upset over the Bills.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah,
they made them struggle, it seems.
100%. And then another thing I thought was important to note is they're saying Josh Allen has some UCL injuries, and for those that don't know what a UCL injury is, it's primarily a baseball injury in your elbow. But what it ends up doing is you pretty much can't throw like at all, and it's a very lingering and painful injury. And for a big arm quarterback like Josh Allen to be going through that, he's going to be going. For him, it's going to be a hard adjustment because like at one point you're able to throw like 80-yard bombs through the air, and now like it's going to hurt throwing like 5-yard checkdowns. Like he may need some time off depending on how bad the strain actually is. Obviously, they're doing MRIs. We're going to wish them the best. I think the league is at its best when all of our best players are on the field. But I mean, yeah, just really weird year of NFL. A lot of the teams that were playoff contenders last year under 500. You don't really know what the playoff picture is going to suit up to be. There's a lot of moving parts, but who knows? We're entering a weird time, but it's exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, it definitely is kind of odd to see like the old guard of the NFL see like kind of be on their way out, but it is kind of nice to see that the Packers kind of dominant reign over the NFC North maybe coming to an end too, because it's like I've seen like the Bears beat the Packers like twice in like my lifetime, it feels like. But that game was kind of interesting to me. But I wanted to kind of talk about the Frank Reich on kind of being on the way out, being fired in Indy.
He got humiliated by New England. I'm happy with that 26-3 win, and we ended his coaching career.
I don't know how much I agree with that though, because like I feel like he might be scapegoated a little bit like by the ownership. They set him up with not even two. He's dealt with 3 very mid to low tier quarterbacks in the past 3 seasons, like a very washed Phillip Rivers, and then Carson Wentz, and now Matt Ryan, who seems maybe washed. That's kind of a hard like deal of quarterbacks to be successful with. But it is the NFL, and if you're not winning, you're gonna be on your way out pretty soon. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that much, but it's interesting to see Jeff Saturday, a former NFL center who doesn't really have much coaching experience at all, kind of be at the helm in Indianapolis. So that will be interesting to see play out.
Yeah, just a quick comment on Jeff Saturday. What in their minds? Like, I get it. Indy legend, played there his whole career, good locker room guy. But I mean, I'm pretty sure he coached a Pee Wee football team to 8-8, and you want him to run an NFL team. Now, I completely understand if it's from the standpoint of you are entering tank bowl. But let's be honest, this isn't the NBA. There isn't someone you're gonna draft and immediately fix your team. Like there's a lot of moving parts that aren't going right there. Last year we thought Carson Wentz was the issue, so you brought in Matt Ryan. Suddenly that didn't work, falls apart. I'm kind of with Cameron. I really don't understand the move here. At least let him finish the year out and then kind of rebuild from there. But I mean, you're kind of just throwing Jeff Saturday to the fire, and I feel like you're not giving him a lot of room to succeed here. And I don't know. I guess this is why I'm not a GM. Ursi for the Colts. I don't think fans are really happy with him. I don't really see him being there too much longer. Maybe they need to take the commander route of thing. Just get Dan Snyder just to sell the team at that point. Pray. My biggest fear though is that Elon Musk is going to end up buying a team, and we're going to have to watch the Washington Teslas. Yeah,
Please
that'll be terrifying to watch. But we're staying optimistic over here. But who knows at this point?
And at the moment, it's looking like a dumpster fire in Indianapolis, and I'm glad that the Patriots started it.
Mm-hmm.
And for our final topic of the day, we'll talk about the NBA. The Cavs, they are for real. Especially Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, as their main trio. It's definitely been very interesting to see Mitchell be dropping 30 points a night relentlessly. Like he's not. I don't see any end to him. I don't see any end to him not scoring 30 a night. As well as Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum, who also had a great performance against Memphis last night. It's definitely been a very interesting week of NBA basketball. So, what have you guys seen from the past week that caught your eye?
Yeah, it's still early in the season, so it's hard to say. But I mean, if Donovan Mitchell gets the Cavs into like a top 4 seed in the East, like I don't see how you don't put him up there for an MVP candidate. I'm just throwing that out there early. Obviously, I'm still on the Jason Tatum MVP campaign. I will never waver from that. So my bias will be as clear as day. So let's get that out of the way. There's some other teams in the East though that are not to be messed with. Surprisingly, the Hawks. I did not think the DeJounte Murray, Trae Young kind of guard duo would work out as well as it is. But that seems to be working really well. The Bucks, obviously are playing unbelievably. Giannis is still one of, if not the best player in the league consistently. And then obviously, you don't know what's going on with the Nets. So that's a big yikes. I don't really want to talk about them.
Hey, they got back-to-back wins before they lost to Dallas, of course, last night. They did have back-to-back wins with Kyrie being suspended, including a great crossover by Kevin Durant.
Yes, he did. He ended up dropping someone. Yes, he did. As for the Western Conference side of things, I'm not going to say anything about the team that shall not be named. We've said enough on their part. I think we all know who we're talking about. Trailblazers still playing extremely well. Steph Curry dropped 47.
On Sacramento.
He's still doing it.
Sad.
Yeah, still doing his thing. But one of the consistent things about the NBA is players are very seasonal. Like the first 3 months of the season, you'll see some guys come out of nowhere and be like TJ Warren bubble mode, and then you'll see some guys that just fall off towards the end of the year, some guys that only come alive when it's playoff time. Like it's a very weird sport, but I think that's why we enjoy watching it so much. And there's still a lot of things that have yet to be figured out. Cavs can start hot, end up falling off. You never know. We'll just have to see. I'm excited
though. I completely am also surprised by the Hawks. Whenever they made the move for Murray, I was a head scratcher for me because I didn't know how well he'd blend with Trae Young and like that kind of consistently always having the ball in your hands like Young does. But they're doing well, and I think I'm not surprised by the Cavs. I think they're legit. I think they will continue to be legit, just because of like their core is so young, and then on top of that, you added Murray in the offseason so I think they'll be good for now and in years coming. So they're legit for sure. I kept saying last week that I figured the Heat would just kind of figure it out, but I'm not sure what's going on there. I maybe they will, but I don't know. And in the Western Conference, like you said, the Blazers are playing well. Damian Lillard's great since he's been back. The Lakers, I say they just tank for Wembanyama tank mode.
They
That's what
can't.
they do,
They
and
can't.
then they tank next year for Bronny. That's if I'm GM, that's the plan. 2 years of tanking and then uh, a chip with Wembanyama, LeBron, and Bronny. That's the plan.
Unfortunately for the Lakers, they don't have their pick this year. The Pelicans do. So
Oh, never mind then. Excuse me. Excuse me.
unless New Orleans
They're done then.
Unless New Orleans decides to be nice to the Lakers, they're not getting Wembanyama.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I spoke.
It's okay.
Lakers are cooked. Lakers are cooked.
And one last quick question. Do we think the Utah Jazz can keep up their momentum? They have a 9-3 record and they're number one in the Western Conference. Do we think they can keep it up?
You know, I feel like the obvious answer is yes, but or no, the obvious answer would be no. But my thing is I think Danny Ainge is just destined to always build greatness out of nothing. I just think like it's impossible for him to put together a bad roster. Because like there's a difference between putting together like a bad roster and then just like putting together a team that you don't think will work. And because Ainge can't like he like in his mind, he doesn't even acknowledge that bad players exist. Like he can only see your value. So he just constantly brings values on a roster that he don't think will complement one another. And they end up working out better than anyone ever could. And he's just like in disbelief. Like he wanted to tank. I think he wanted to tank going into this year. It was very obvious with getting Mitchell Gobert out of there. And suddenly they're just one of the most dominant teams in the West. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Maybe he has his league settings on rookie mode. I don't know what he's got going on up there in Utah, but he's got something cooking, and it's surely working.
I definitely don't think they'll finish, first in the West, but the West is just not. It's so wonky right now. Like it's hard for me to see like a world where they like end up missing the play-in or ending up at like the complete bottom. Like you said, they have like a knack for just building good rosters and being able to just put a good product on the floor. So I think even if they don't keep up like how well they're playing now, they're easily a play-in team. I don't have any doubt about that at all right now.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting start to the Utah Jazz, especially being top of the West. So, well, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they keep this up throughout the season. With that, that'll be it for this episode of UPressPlay Sports. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Click the bell to keep up with notifications from us. Also, be sure to go on upressonline.com to keep up with news, sports, and more content alike. To follow us on Twitter, it's for me, at Rich26Pereira, for Cameron, at PrehistorCameron, and for Zach, at ZachWatts1_. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.